Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today, as you can see, we're going to be talking about Power BI Desktop Developer Mode. So, I've got a bunch of thoughts around this, and as you can see, I posted a poll result on this, in which I asked if saving Power BI files as PBIP versus having an extension for Visual Studio like SSRS, Power Query, and everything else is weird, totally normal, genius, and huh. So, uh, so I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to get into this poll results, and I'm going to talk about Power BI Developer Mode, and I'm going to talk about why, in my opinion, it's a tremendously bad idea. Um, so so let's get into it. I think the first thing I need to talk about though is why do I have this virtual background behind me versus my normal background? And the reason is I'm actually on vacation. So I'm actually out at VidCon with my son out in Anaheim, California. And we're attending VidCon. It's been a dream of his since he's been, for a long time. It's been really cool. We got to meet a lot of YouTubers and things like that, learn a lot about the industry and stuff like that. So it's been pretty cool. And so yeah, so I'm actually in my hotel room right now. I've got Disneyland is like literally right out my window. And So yeah, the fireworks will go off here, and let me look. They're setting off fireworks. Oh, I got an hour before the fireworks. We'll be done by then. Um, anyway, so that's why I got the virtual background behind me. Now, why this subject of Power BI developer mode? So it's something that's been coming up a lot least recently. I've noticed it a lot in like the last 6 months, is that I've been seeing a lot of Power BI Pro development, right? And people are like, oh, Power BI Pro development, pro, and I just somehow they're meaning to distinguish themselves from other Power BI development is what I can tell, but there's never a definition of what pro development means versus just Power BI development. Although the only thing I can determine is that it just means that you're capable of launching Tabular Editor, from what I can tell. That establishes you as a pro developer versus non-pro developer. I think this is where this whole developer mode for Power BI comes from. I mean, really, I mean, think so. Let's just boil this down to brass tacks here. Power BI is a consumer business user product. Okay. Just like Excel, just like Microsoft Word, just like, all of your other Office products that you have out there, right? It wasn't designed for pro development. Okay. It was designed for consumer business user, right? That's how it started. I mean, this just the utter lack of any kind of enterprise features, when you dial it back like, 7, 8 years ago. I mean, really, those only started appearing when you started to get into Power BI Premium, which is not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, right? When you started getting some more like enterprise kind of features. But again, those enterprise features were really in the service, not in the desktop itself. The desktop has been the desktop, right? And it really hasn't had, I mean, literally no kind of professional development features built into it like ever. And I guess this saving as a PBIP file is like that is apparently now a pro like developer feature or whatever. It's total nonsense. And I'm going to get into why it's a super bad idea in my opinion. But I mean that's the whole concept behind this, right? So it's just there's so much to unpack around this. So let's start with that's kind of the background at this pro development and why I think Microsoft felt compelled to start putting some of these features into Power BI Desktop, even though it's a bad path, in my opinion. They've been relying too heavily on third parties, just like with visuals, right? That was kind of my last video. The third party community has been filling this gap of things that Microsoft has ignored for 8 years, right? And one is any kind of real development features within Power BI for version control and all of that kind of stuff, code development, all of that sort of thing. They've totally ignored the visuals, right? They've just always been kind of crappy, since day one. And now they're sort of less crappy, I guess, but not any easier to use or anything like that. Still, they're just okay. You can add a glow onto it. Yeah, I can add a glow on my card visual. Hooray! It's been existing for third party for forever, right? Who cares? So that's been kind of my take on the card visual, right? Because it's just Day late and a dollar short, right? Bottom line. Okay, so let's put that behind us now. We're going to focus on this poll that we've got here. So first of all, these polls, I mean, I swear, totally normal. Are you kidding me? Saving what other Microsoft product? What other Microsoft product allows you to save a file format where it saves it as a text file in a project format, right? Visual Studio is the only one that I'm aware of, right? I'm not aware of that you can do this with any other Microsoft product that's out there other than Notepad, right? You save a bunch of text files and it creates different folder structures and all of that sort of thing. It's like, how does 20% of think that that's totally normal? Somebody needs to comment on this video or comment on my poll and like, how exactly is that totally normal? Like that should be 0%. There's no other application within Microsoft that does it. So I mean, it may be weird, it may be genius, but totally normal? That's totally bogus. Um, but the other interesting thing about this is 40% are like, huh? What? Which means that for for a good majority of people, or for a large segment of people, they don't even care about this feature, right? They don't care, right? Because again, business users, right? And that sort of thing. Probably other ones that are totally normal are probably also business users that have no idea what I'm talking about, or what's being talked about. So the majority just have no clue. If you had up 40%, and the other 20% that they literally have no clue, from what I can tell, because no other product in Microsoft's works this way. So I don't see how it could be totally normal. Um, got 60% that just don't have a clue at all. So again, and it's pretty evenly split between weird and genius, right? And I'd love for somebody to tell me exactly how this is genius. Again, comment below, just educate me on the geniusness of this, if you will, versus it truly being a weird thing, in my opinion. And I'm going to present the alternative here in just a second. So anyway, so if you kind of look through this Power BI deep dive into Power BI developer mode, even though the article is barely, it's so short, right? I don't know how this qualifies as a deep dive when there's just nothing to it. But anyway, so here's the major features that it's listed, right? Source control, continuous integration and continuous delivery, right? CI/CD, text editor support, and programmatic generation and editing of artifacts, right? Which that's not even a supported feature. That's just, hey, you can write your own scripts and applications to make stuff. That's not even a feature, people. How do you list that as a feature? Like just the fact that you're spitting out as a file structure with text, right? That implies that you can do this. This is not a feature, right? You're not supplying the scripts, are you? No, you're not. So you can't list this as a feature, Microsoft. I'm sorry. But anyway, if you look at these things right here, it's like the short list of like the things that Visual Studio does, which okay, I've been around IT for a long time, man. And I've been around a lot of professional application development. In fact, that's the company I work for now does a ton of custom application development. In pro developers, pro developers using, they're not using Power BI desktop, people. They're using Visual Studio. Okay, and the other segment of professional developers use Eclipse, or similar IDE, right? Power BI is not an IDE. I'm sorry to tell you. And this weird attempt to try to make it an IDE seems totally off base to me. Because you're just reinventing the wheel, right? Visual Studio already has source control, like integration with source control systems. It already has integration with CI/CD systems, right? It can definitely do text editor support. Ooh, what a feature! But like, it already has all this. Why are you reinventing the wheel within Power BI Desktop when the entire history of the way Microsoft has done this in the past has not been to integrate development features into an application, a separate. They just integrated as an extension to Visual Studio, right? Right. We have things like the SQL Server Data Tools, right? SSDT for Visual Studio. This has existed for a long, long time, right? And we can create analysis services stuff, integration services stuff, reporting services, right? We can create reports, SSRS reports and things like that. We can do all. If you want data, hey, I want to create a data lake in Visual Studio. Hey, you can do that, right? There's also Power Query extensions for Visual Studio. Like, I mean, just look at what Visual Studio can do, right? I mean, so here, yeah, here's SQL Server database. If I want to add a project, right, I can come in here and well, I didn't mean to do that, but apparently I'm going to add a project to this. I just won't save it. Here, cancel. Come on, cancel. Let's go. All right. Oh, well, there it is. What'd I do? Well, anyway. So you have this solution, right? You can add projects to it and things like it. So let's see, where is it when I add a new project, right? So add a new project gives me all these options, right? And then let's say I add I want to add an existing project, right? So look at all these different things I can add. Look at all these different project files I can add, right? So CSS, C# project file, like all these different project files. Look at the list here. It goes on and on and on. You know what's not here? Is a PBIP file. Okay, and I've tried, and you cannot add a PBIP file as a project in Visual Studio. So that's like a fat L just to begin with, right? I mean, is the right hand not talking to the left hand here, right? I mean, what in the world are you thinking if you're going to create a new project file type and it doesn't even integrate with Visual Studio, which is like the king of all the project file types, right? For development purposes. It just totally makes no sense to me. Like you even have SQL project files, database project files. You have all these different project files. Where's the Power BI project file? Where's the Power BI extension for Visual Studio to do this? Why in God's name are you putting these features into Power BI desktop versus within your actual pro development tool, which is Visual Studio? It makes no sense to me whatsoever. I just don't understand it. I don't get it at all. Um, like it should be here in Visual Studios where I should be doing the pro development stuff. And just no question about it. Okay. So let's at least talk about the feature a little bit. I mean, it is a preview feature, right? You have to go to options, settings, options. You have to go in here to preview once it comes up, preview features, and then Power BI project PBIP save option, which basically means that, when you want to save it, you can save as, and you can basically pick PBIP instead. And what it does is well, cancel here, get over here. Nope, wrong thing, this one. What it does, it creates this PBIP file here, right? So if I go to properties, and I've got different versions. This is I Spit on Your Grave, which is an earlier video if you want to check it out, about time intelligence. So here it is, PBIP file. So it saves that, and then it actually gives you this report folder and then a dataset folder. And then you've got, this kind of structure where you got the definition for the PBI dataset and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's got, there it is. So it's got a different structure, and you can actually, if we go into the report, I think it's kind of interesting. So data set diagram definition. I think this is, I can open this up with Notepad maybe. No, choose another file. Try Notepad. I think it's this one. Nope. Okay, that was not the one I was looking for. Is it here? Nope, that's not it either. There was one that actually gave me, oh, there it was, the report, the JSON file, right? So I can open this up with Notepad. And you can see it's actually got like my visuals in here, which if you scroll down through and you can actually see like the visuals and stuff. So it's all just JSON um, that defines everything essentially. So actually shows you, I think this is like one of the visuals, I believe, where it has like the height and the width and where it's located on the page and all of that sort of fun stuff, right? And then a bunch of, it's kind of ugly. I wish, again, one of my pet peeves is poorly formatted JSON files, which this qualifies as one of, I mean, anytime you see this, it's like, come on, man, get some indents going here. What's going on? So anyway, but yeah, it actually like defines this as a JSON file, which again, JSON, most of this stuff's JSONs and file, all that sort of stuff, you know, Visual Studio handles that quite well. I don't know why. Um, it's just like I don't understand the reinvention of the wheel or why they would be trying to integrate these into Power BI Desktop. Because again, going back to custom custom software development. And the number one way to make custom software development fail, or to make any development project fail miserably, is to take a set of base requirements for the software, and you develop the software for those base requirements. And then over time, those base requirements change, right? And the persona changes, okay? And so you try to adapt this software that you've developed to meet these changing demands and these changing personas, and ultimately comes out to be a god awful mess. And it's unwieldy and fails, and nobody likes it, right? And that's what my fear is going to happen with Power BI Desktop. Is that basically, the original core persona for this was the business user, right? And there's a core set of requirements for what it had to do as a software product. And now suddenly they're like, well, we're gonna make it into Visual Studio, right? We're gonna add all these source control features and continuous integration development, all this other stuff. And this is for a completely different persona, right? The professional data developer that is used to, in the past working in Visual Studio when they want to do their pro development, um, within Visual Studio and that, and integrate that into a project, and then promote that up through source control, and do merges up between things and all of that sort of stuff. And now they're trying to make Power BI Desktop do that. That just seems off base to me and a mistake. Just because it's going to come out where nobody's going to be happy. The people that are originally using the product aren't going to be happy because it's going to add bloat and a bunch of features they don't care about. 40% are like, what? For 40% of people out there, it's going to be like they don't even care about these features. You're just going to slow the program down, add a bunch of bloat, right? They don't care about it. So it's not going to make them happy. It's going to be kind of half-assed features, right? In terms of compared to Visual Studio for your pro development people, so they're not going to be happy with it. I don't understand the persona. It's like you're semi-pro developer. Is it like, this is for like, Canadian Football League kind of Power BI developers out there? I don't understand, what this is for. Again, it's a preview feature, but I just don't know where they're going with it, because it makes no sense given the entire history of professional development that Microsoft has gone down in the past, with adding extensions and doing these other things with Visual Studio, to then it'd be like trying to like, oh, let's try to integrate PowerPoint, and we'll add continuous integration into PowerPoint. It just makes absolutely zero sense. So that's all for this video. You know, been fun. Been filming this from Anaheim, California. I'll be in Orlando here coming up as well. We're going to be going to Universal Studios. So again, yeah, this is my summer vacation kind of thing, and but I'm still making videos, and I'm still trying to participate in the community as much as I can, even while on vacation. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.